Alright, so today we're going to learn how to copy files. And this is not some function Python has created. This is actually going to be a program that we're going to create in which we take in a user's file name, for example. And then all we do is we open it up, get the data from their file name, and then write it onto a new file. So the concept is actually quite cool, and let's get started. The first thing we need is the user's file name. So I'm going to call this UFN or UFN. User's file name, and that's going to be equal to an input, and all we're going to say is bro, enter your file name. Okay, so once we do that, hit enter. So what's our file name? Well, for this purpose, let's go ahead and use test file. So now that we've done this, UFN is now equal to test file. So what we have to do now is create file1, set this equal to open UFN comma read, or actually R. What does it do? It gives an error. No such file or directory, test file found. So as you can see, this is our first error we've run into. We have to add that .txt to our UFN. So what we can say is UFN is now equal to UFN plus .txt. Okay. Now let's go ahead and run this file again. File1 is equal to open UFN comma R. There we go. Now let's go ahead and create file2. File2 is going to be the new file which will hold all the data of file1. So file1 is equal to open. Now we haven't created any file, so if you remember that I've talked about, if you don't have a file that's been created, Python will create one for you using the name given. So I'm going to call this copied file.txt comma w. Okay, so now what I have to do is, well, think about the codes that are going to come next. We want to read off file1 and set all the data of file1 to file2. I'm going to pause this video here and give you a few seconds to try it out. Alright, hopefully you managed it. If you didn't, don't worry. So the code you want to write here is file2.write should be file1.read. Okay, so basically all we're saying is all the data in file1 should be written to file2. Okay, so as you can see, all the data in file1 has been written to file2. Now I'm going to go ahead and say close file1, file2.close, because we don't need them anymore. And now I'm going to reopen our file2, except instead of W, I'm now going to say R. So file2 is equal to open copied file.txt comma R. And now if we go ahead and read off this file, well, if you're a step ahead of me, ta-da, we have now gotten all the text from the file name the user entered into a completely new file. So in this lecture, we learned how to copy files from, if a user gives you text, if a user gives you a string which contains the file name, what we did is we got all the data from that file name and then recreated a new file and set the data to that file. So again, a very cool program. If you want to save this and keep this for future references, what you can do is go ahead and say file, new file, and then in this new file, type in the whole code and save it. Again, I'm not going to do that right now. Probably in the future when we get to more complex programming, I'll start using the file. But for now, fantastic job. Again, if you've had any questions throughout this whole file IO, how does a read work, write work, what does a seek mean, tell mean, stuff like that, any doubts whatsoever, definitely leave a comment or question and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Now, in the next lecture or in the next section, we're going to cover some modules in Python. So we learned about OS this section, and in the next section we'll cover quite a few different modules such as the random module, OS module, and so on that will greatly benefit us in the future whenever we're doing Python programming. See you then.